Hello and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at patching a non-conventional hole in drywall. To do this, we're going to need both paper tape and mesh tape, as can be seen on the left, as well as some drywall mud. I always prefer hot mud or mud that you mix yourself, but you can go with premix as well. This is non-conventional because we don't actually have full access to the back of the drywall. This type of fix will be done on a drywall windowsill, doubled up drywall like mine, or a single layer directly over another material. We start off by making a small paper template, putting it in the hole, and pressing the edges so we have an outline of the hole. Once we have the outline, cut it out with scissors or a razor blade. From here, we want to coat the backside of both pieces of paper with simple white PVA glue, Elmer's glue, and then press it into the hole. If we had any access behind the drywall, we would actually use contact cement or spray adhesive to attach the paper directly to the backside of the drywall, but that is not the case in this situation. After the paper and glue have dried, it's time for our first coat of mud. Since we want to make sure it really sticks to the paper and surrounding surfaces, we want to put about a quarter size amount of glue into the water and then add our compound. You'll want to slowly add water until you have a consistency that's a bit thicker than pancake batter. If you're going with premix mud, mix up a little bit of glue into some hot water first, and then take a couple of scoops of mud out of your bucket, put it into a trough or a cup, and mix glue into it for the same effect. Now that we've got our mud mixed and ready to go, let's prep our surface and then slop in our first bit of mud. Since I want to protect my carpet, even though I'm removing it, I'm putting some painter's tape down. Once you've got your area protected, it's time to put in the first rather large amount of mud. If you're using hot mud, in my case the 90-minute mud, you can put a very large amount in with minimal to no shrinking. If you're using premix mud though, which I've never been a fan of, it will shrink, so it's best to do about 1/8 of an inch thick at a time. You will have to wait longer for it to dry the thicker it is as well. You can also put a fan on it to help dry it out quicker. After you get your mud in and near the outer lip, it's time to grab your mesh tape. Cut it so it goes about 1/2 inch over onto the other surfaces and embed it into the wet mud. Once it's embedded in, take a little bit more mud and apply it to the outside edges, making sure the whole piece is encased in mud. Try to use the edge of your knife to remove any high spots from the outside edges of the tape. While it's not super important to have it be perfect, as you can see, mine isn't too great here. We will be gently sanding it later and removing the high spots. I also didn't realize just how difficult it would be to do this while working around my camera, so my dexterity definitely took a bit of a dip, but that's what sanding's for. Now, we have a choice for the next step, and it really depends on how well your mud work turned out. I was mostly happy with it as it came out and went ahead with adding a second coat after the first one had dried. If I had any large drop-offs on my edges or high spots that were an issue, I would have sanded first. However, that wasn't necessary in this case. I used my 1.5 inch putty knife to put more mud in the area to get it closer to being completely full and then worked to even everything out and smooth it out with my 6-inch knife. You can watch me struggle a good bit with trying to get a decent finish due to working around my camera, as well as how jagged the wall is near the center from where there were many layers of paint. I want to say I found about 4 layers of paint in this room. You can check to see if you have a flat surface using the edge of your longer knife and see if you can see any hollow spots along the edge. If you do see some, go ahead, add some more mud, and then flatten it out. Once this coat of mud dries to the touch, not completely, we'll go ahead and wet sand it. Alright, so on to the sanding and wet sanding, of which I didn't realize you could do until just a few months ago, and it has completely changed my life. Start off by scraping off any high spots with your putty knife. Once you have all of the high spots removed, go ahead and grab a damp sponge, emphasis on damp. If it's dripping water, it's way too wet. You'll gently go over the surface with the damp sponge, placing slightly more pressure over the edges to help feather them out, as well as a light and gentle motion over the whole section. Frequently change sides of the sponge and rinse out as needed. Once you're done with this step, you can check to see if you're happy with the result. If you're not, and you likely won't be at this point, go ahead and add one thin final coat. As you can see though, we do have a very strong section of drywall that we've rebuilt. For this final coat, check with your knife to see if you have any low spots, so you know where to focus your efforts. This final coat will be less than 1/8 of an inch thick, and it should dry fairly quickly for us. Normally you'd want to try and feather out your edges, which is done by applying pressure to the outside edge of the knife, and then going along the wall. However, for this small of an area and cramped workspace, you can see that I struggle a bit to do exactly that. And that's really the whole process. The last thing you have to do is gently wet sand this final layer. Once it's dry to the touch, and you're ready for texture and paint, or however you wish to finish your wall. And here's the final result. Sorry for not having footage of the wet sanding for this final coat, the camera lost the footage for it. Anyway, that's the whole process for fixing a non-regular hole in drywall, and it's now ready for texture, primer, paint, whatever you're wanting to finish it with. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with new content as it comes out. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.